1.
And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today. Today is Wednesday, December 19th, 2012. 2 days until the Mayan calendar runs out. And what happens then? Well, we get the 22nd of December. Anyway, I'm Doug Hagmann. I'm the host of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report with my son, Joe Hagmann. He's also the host. Folks, you're about to hear 3 hours of unbiased and uncensored news, analysis, and information that we need to know. We need to talk about. Can we talk? Can we talk?
We have to talk.
We have to talk. We broadcast live every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And on special occasions, we have shows during the weekends. And I just want to say, you can find us on the Internet at HomelandSecurityUS.com. That's HomelandSecurityUS.com. And I'm a contributing editor, I'll get this right. I'm a contributor to CanadaFreePress.com. Very, very great website, CanadaFreePress.com. And if you're joining us tonight live in front of your computer, you can watch Joe on video, high-def video, compliments of the Christians United Broadcasting Network. That's Christians United Broadcasting Network. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight and for your belief and trust in us, because bringing you the news today is an especially daunting task, and we have to use our own discernment, or discernment granted to us by the Almighty God, to cover all of the most important information that's out there. So I just want to thank you for joining us, whether you're listening to this in the United States or in the UK, in Israel, in Australia, New Zealand. We've got listeners all over the world, and thank you for
South America.
South America now, too, yes, or still.
I don't want to say this. We have a special show. Tomorrow is the 20th of December, one day before the Mayan calendar hype, and we are going to have a special guest, Doc Marquis, will be on tomorrow with us for the whole show. I talked to him today. We were going to get into a lot of important topics. What is really going on the 21st, if anything? We're going to be talking about the rapture. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of other things, too. And probably taking your calls if you have questions the second half or third hour of the show. So get those ready if you do.
Yeah, and I just want to just let people know, we bring people on, guests on, to who have ideas. And this show is a show of ideas, of viewpoints, of research. People have done research, and we allow them present their findings, what they believe to be their findings, to you. And it's up to you to decide whether, yes, okay, this makes sense, or if you have further questions. But to take it, do your own research, and also take it to prayer as well. Because that's anything we say as well. Take it to prayer. Now, we've got a very busy night planned, a busy show planned. I do want to say this as well, Joe. I've been getting reports, folks. Look, the attacks, the violence, the mass shootings, it's not over. It's not over. Information I've gotten indicates that we're going to see another one. We're going to see another one of these shootings between now and Christmas, perhaps, or between now and the end of the year. A significant one. And, do I know this for a fact? Of course not. Of course not. I don't know this.
No, it is looking at what we have seen in the past, and the uptick in these types of things that are happening, the demonic shift that has taken place, and the I got some startling
it
audio
also has
that shows their agenda. I have audio from MSNBC that we're going to play for you. We might as well do it now.
Let's get this out of the way.
There's two clips. One is Nancy Pelosi talking about assault magazines, but she said something in here that I'll play this other audio first to tie it in. Here's MSNBC
wait a second. Before you play this, I just want to let everyone know. The reason we're talking about this issue so much, and you guys are probably so sick and tired of hearing about this, but see, this is a key point, a key event. The Sandy Hook shooting was a key event, and this is a window, like Benghazi, for the global Syria, Middle East agenda. This is a window into what they're going to do here in America. Go ahead, Joe.
This is MSNBC. The title of this YouTube is "Hopefully the Connecticut Massacre Will Result in Political Capital to Reform Gun Laws." This is a 28-second clip.
Jonathan, I have a list, a horrible list of the deadliest U.S. school shootings. Columbine, of course, killed 12 students before the two shooters took their own lives. We're hearing reports now that up to 20 children may have been shot. It is, hopefully, we say this every single time we cover one of these things, a line in the sand. There has got to be some kind of measurable change, some kind of reaction. One would hope that there will be some political capital to reform the way in which we handle gun and gun violence in this country.
Some political capital to the way we handle. Hopefully this tragedy will give us political capital to ban guns. Now I want to go to Nancy Pelosi, who says this about assault magazines. But listen to what else she says, because it's very important.
Well, the president said he will use everything in his power. Words matter, though, and we have seen that this was not discussed during the election campaign. No commitments were made, no promises were made. It just wasn't an issue. And it seems as though we go from cycle to cycle, and there's an immediate response, and then it fades. How do we know this time that the momentum won't be permitted to fade?
Well, I think the fact that there's been so many events in close proximity, time-wise, to each other, that this is almost a tipping point. Little children, 20 little children, and the adults also. That how do you explain to the children why something like this, and how does something like this happen? It happens because somebody is mentally ill, in this case, obviously. But how does it happen? Because a person with impaired judgment had access to firepower that should be outlawed. There's no reason why these assault magazines, and that's what they are. We've got to call them what they are, assault magazines. You aren't even allowed to have that on a hunting gun. In California, anyway, you can have 3 shots. And here in a kindergarten, you can have...
That cut off right there.
Yeah.
Well, the important part, I think...
She spoke of what they can do, what they can gain. The never let a good crisis go to waste mentality.
Right. That's exactly right. And if you look at the... if you look at the pedigree of the current administration, if you look at the current administration, and I'll just call it, allow me folks to call this a regime, not an administration. If you look at the lineage from this, you can trace Obama back, Obama and the progressives specifically, back to Karl Marx. And it's not that big of a leap. And from Karl Marx sprang the Frankfurt School, Antonio Gramsci, Fabian Socialists, the Communist Party USA, and of course the foundation of the Soviet Union, or the USSR. Those of you old enough to remember that, I feel old now, but you know, the Soviet Union. And from there, from we'll say from the Frankfurt School, that sprang political correctness and cultural Marxism. And one name in particular, folks, you might want to really write down if you've got a pen and paper there. Herbert Mancouse. Study him. And from there, you've got political correctness and cultural Marxism into diversity, into social justice, into multiculturalism. And that, of course, is the springboard of the Democratic Party, or the progressives, more appropriately. And then if you move over to the lineage of Karl Marx to Antonio Gramsci, that's another individual, folks, that you need to study. You need to research. The last name is spelled Gramsci. That's Gramsci. From Antonio Gramsci came Saul Alinsky. And, of course, from Saul Alinsky, the Cloward-Piven strategy. From there, we found Wade Radke, an acorn, in this idea of shared prosperity and illegal immigration. And then the Fabian Socialists sprang the Students for a Democratic Society, SDS, the Weather Underground, Bill Ayers. And, of course, Bill Ayers kind of cross-pollinates into social justice and goes on to the movement of the anti-war movement, which is not a bad thing, except when it is a bad thing in the manner in which it's conducted. By the way, the SDS line goes up to George Soros Open Society Institute, which does play a role, ladies and gentlemen. George Soros plays a role in Benghazi. If you go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, today, this morning I wrote an article concerning the report that was just issued, and we're going to be talking about that because that is a very revealing document, 39 pages. And there's some symbolism contained in that document that you need to know about. Whether you believe it, well, you need to know about it. But anyway, from the Fabian Socialists, we have John Dewey and the National Education Association, and from there, Reverend Jim Wallace. Folks, study Reverend Jim Wallace, the anti-war movement, again. And the Communist Party USA is kind of a broad movement that began, of course, back in early in the 20th century. But from there, you've got the various other movements, the feminist movement. You know, really, when we talk about the feminist movement and the homosexual movement and the anti-Christian or anti-religion movement, now, the organization like Now and abortion, all of this comes directly from the Communist Party. And people might say, well, no, it doesn't. No, it does. See, it does. It's an agenda of the Communist Party.
And what it is all these tactics are used, you know, we say communism, that form of government. We have the Nazis, we have China, we have, Canada, and pick a government. There's different forms, there's different types, socialism, communism. They're all based from the same idea, which is authoritarianism.
Well, totalitarianism, authoritarian. Yeah, it goes by different names, but it's the same principle. And once again, I would like to remind everyone who thinks, for example, fascism is a product or is related to the right end of the political spectrum.
No, it is an authoritarian.
That's right.
All it is just the merging of governments and corporations for the benefit of both at the expense of the people. And
exactly. And but here's here's where everything kind of comes together. We had 4 years of Obama, and he was somewhat restrained. He was like a dog on a leash.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. I'm going to get emails calling me a racist.
I want to say this. I watched a video today of Chris Matthews. It was a couple-second clip where he talked about, I think this is what he said about the election results. He said, I think, white people who voted for Obama the first time and, got upset because they held him to a higher standard than they would a white president, and because of he didn't, get everything done or that he wanted to, that it's racist because they wouldn't vote for him again. it's ridiculous.
Well, the only real people that mention race in an intellectual discussion or intellectual discourse are the racists themselves, and so just folks keep that in mind.
Yeah, we got a lot of news we're going to get into tonight. A lot of things going on that are very important to talk about. House Democrats say, turn in your gun. Sheila Jackson Lee is urging people to turn in their guns, arguing it would be an appropriate response to the mass shooting last week in Newton, Connecticut. She goes on to say, I would personally just say to those who are listening, maybe you want to turn in your guns. Oh no, I'm not going to take your guns, but look at what Dick's Sporting Goods did. They wanted to be part of the solution and part of America. So now, if you own a gun, according to what she's saying here, it's un-American. I mean, did you get... They wanted to be part of the solution and part of America. This America, I guess, is not going to include firearms, except for the authority.
That's the plan, folks, and this is the plan that's being set in motion right now. According to the information I'm getting from people within the Department of Homeland Security, a couple of good men, good, solid, God-fearing Christians who are keeping tabs and are behind enemy lines, shall we say. And I laugh, too, at people who say, well, why don't they come forward and tell people, what's really going on, because they're more valuable nameless and faceless and under the veil of anonymity.
No, we need sources, or we don't believe it, or it came out of the voices from your head.
Yeah,
that's this kind of treatment you get.
Well, ever since they upped my meds, I've had those under control. But see, here's the plan, folks. You're watching it unfold right now.
Yeah,
you're watching it unfold when my DHS contact in the summer said it was going hot. The plan was going hot. There was confusion as to really what that meant. Well, the plan is to disarm America, and of course we are going to, at the same time America is disarmed, we're going to experience a financial crisis. And when that happens, we're going to have people that are longing for food. And the intent here, folks, is to starve us out and to have us trade our guns for food. That's one of the intents.
I want to play this audio. This is something I found, and it really speaks to police and it's for the police and military. Like, what's coming, and what are you going to do? It's a good audio. It's about 2 or 3 minutes here. I'm going to play it because this is very important. I think.
Okay. Well,
here's alert, an open message to police and military.
This is an open message to police, to the military, to TSA, Homeland Security, and to members of every other enforcement arm of the government. I know that most of you chose the life in uniform because you love your country, because you believed in what that uniform stood for, because you genuinely wanted to serve and protect. But I also know that deep down inside, you sense that something has gone terribly wrong. You've watched with the rest of us as elected officials have legislated our constitutional rights away piece by piece. You've watched as the state surveillance apparatus has expanded like a cancer through the heart of the nation. And you've seen the corruption that's become more blatant with every passing year. I can understand why you haven't wanted to acknowledge the implications of what you're witnessing. To face the reality of what's happening would mean admitting that you've been betrayed. And it would mean coming to terms with the fact that you are working for criminals. I don't envy your position. I know your job depends on following orders. I know you have families to support and bills to pay. And I know if you stand up, you could lose everything. But what you need to understand is that continuing to submit to unconstitutional and immoral orders will not protect you from what's coming. You may tell yourself that you can draw your line in the sand later, that there's a certain point where you'll say no. But in reality, you crossed the line a long time ago. You are standing on the wrong side of history right now. You are already participating in the destruction of this country, in the trampling of our rights, of your children's rights, and your grandchildren's rights. You are the enforcement arm of a criminal enterprise. You are a servant of a rapidly expanding police state, and you do have a choice. I'm not telling you this to condemn you. I'm telling you this because we, the people, desperately need you to take a stand. We desperately need you to have the courage to face your commanding officers and tell them, no, I didn't sign up for this. No, this isn't right. No, I will not obey these unlawful orders. You took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's time to start taking that oath seriously.
There you have it. When will you draw your line in the sand? As you heard in the audio, they're working. He said, you know, your military and police officers out there, you're working for the criminals. You are the ones enforcing their agendas.
You know, you've heard Alex Jones say that the banksters, as he calls them, or the international bankers, are in fact the power behind what we're seeing. Don't discount that, because that's exactly what is taking place. Research does show that we are being robbed on a wholesale level.
Yeah, and for those of you wanting the video, the name of that video is 2013 Alert, an open message to police and military, for those asking in chat.
Okay, and so just to be clear, ladies and gentlemen, we're watching the opening acts of a play, and that play is, I could say this. We're watching the closing acts of a play that involve the oppression of the American people, the suspension of our Constitution, and how that's going to be done is going to be done in a couple of different ways. Obviously, they're going to have to criminalize weapons, the ownership of weapons, and that can be done through executive order, or that will be done through executive order. But like that audio video said, you know, to enforce that, you're going to have to. It's not going to be a pretty event. It won't be pretty.
No, who's going to want to do that? It's a death sentence to, you know, a lot of the people that would have to enforce that. I mean, think about this. You're in a room with a superior officer. You know, you got, let's say this. They're going to take over a city our size, about 100,000 people. They got about 5,000 officers, okay? They got about, 100 commanders,
right?
20 bigger commanders, and one big guy. When those orders are given down, those 5,000 people should turn on their commanders, not on the American people. Will that happen? No, I don't believe so. They will carry out their orders as they are supposed to do, as history shows, as the Bible tells us that, you know, we're going to be turned on by other people. We're going to be sabotaged. We're going to be attacked. We're going to be persecuted. We're going to have troubles and tribulations.
One of the biggest things here we've got police departments and police officers. For example, former police chief Norm Stamper. He believes that the Second Amendment should be removed from the Bill of Rights and replaced with legislation that makes sense for today. Well, here's the problem with this. People who think like that believe that the Constitution is malleable. They believe it's a living, breathing document, when in fact it's a document that's carved in stone. The rights of the American people are bestowed upon us by God and delineated in the Constitution. And see, that's forgotten, and that's why, folks, when we take God out of the equation, when we take God out of schools and out of our everyday lives, this is the dilution, the perversion that takes place, the perversion of our laws. We've got many. You're seeing in these closing acts, or in this play, you're seeing lines being drawn and teams being formed. The sides are being picked, and we're now in the early stages of the upcoming anarchy.
Yes, there will be anarchy.
Yeah, and let me define anarchy, because people think it's going to be just total chaos. It's going to be. How much do Americans tolerate right now? Well, they're tolerating being groped and nuked in airports and in other locations. Two ladies in Texas were actually sexually violated by a Texas state ranger, state trooper, at a traffic stop. That I think that's on YouTube, and I believe Alex Jones also featured that as well. You see, here's the problem with all of this. You've got a lot of people behind keyboards that enjoy anonymity, that enjoy the luxury of not having to move from their keyboards, and they can develop virtual muscles, kind of like someone in a bar develops beer muscles. You develop virtual muscles, and you see the bravado among these people in the various forums and websites. Oh, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Step out into the real world, and you'll find how many people will roll over. And when the knock comes on the door, and they ask for your gun, or if you own guns, or if they ask you to surrender guns, how many of you have made the decision that you're not going to turn them in? I've talked to a couple of people today, and look, we gun owners are not asking for this. Law-abiding citizens that own weapons are not asking for this battle. It's being brought to us.
There was a new bill today brought out by the 112th Congress. This is by Representative Bobby Rush, a Democrat out of Illinois, H.R. 6680.
Right.
To provide for the implementation of a system of licensing for purchases of certain firearms and for a record of sale system for those firearms and for other purposes.
That's just a placeholder, though, Joe. That's just a placeholder in the court record. The text of the bill.
No, not yet. The text is not available. But what I see as important is that they are going to continue, individual representatives, especially the ones who hate guns and freedom and liberty, are going to put together bills, gun control bills, as, political, they'll be used as tools, when their constituents ask after another shooting, what are you doing about this problem? And they can say, well, I introduced this bill to ban guns. They're going to get it. They're going to get it done. And even if they don't ban guns, what does it matter? These places, they're banning, Walmart's not selling guns anymore. What's that other one that they said? Oh, Dick's Sporting Goods. Joining America by not selling guns anymore.
You're going to have people, they're choosing sides.
Cheaper than dirt. Well, no more online gun sales. Obama's trying to shut down gun shows altogether. So it would be illegal. Wouldn't even be legal to have a gun show.
Well,
this is where we're going. And to top it off, this from InfoWars, UN gun grab follows State Department plan. Complete disarmament of the American people.
And the UN is going to figure prominently in this. By the way, this is the other half of the equation, because you see, in order for us to be compelled to give up our weapons or to have our weapons criminalized, whether it's through executive order or by some freak of nature law like we saw with the Affordable Health Care Act, then the Constitution is going to have to be violated.
Well,
and if that's the case, then what we've got is a country that is open for globalist control, which is what they want.
Look,
that's what they want.
These people have the agenda, have been setting the agenda. The banning of firearms for civilians has been one of their plans on paper, at least probably in Britain, since, before America was even ever around. Before, when guns were first started, there was probably anti-gun people. But now it is at a level that has never been reached before. There has never been this much debate, tension, and agreement of banning guns. People don't understand history. They don't understand what they're doing. the Bible say? Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do. It is not good to shoot people. No, that's not why we need guns. We don't want guns to commit mass murders. We don't want these mass murders to continue. But guns are not the problem, okay? We go through this all the time, if you ban guns, and then there's, 1,000% increase in sword or stabbings, are you going to start banning knives? I mean, where does it end?
Well, one of the factors that played into the Revolutionary War, and you can look this up.
Is this whether the law was you had to carry a gun?
Well, no. I mean, no.
Because there was a law in Virginia at one point when you couldn't go in public without a gun.
No, I mean, it was the road to disarmament, actually. I mean, people talk about the Sugar Act and the Currency Act and the Committees of Correspondence, the Quartering Act, the Stamp Act, and so on. But a little-known fact is if you study the American Revolution and some of the reasons behind it, there were increasing restrictions placed upon the colonies by the British, and even though only 1/3 of the colonists were actually in favor of rebellion, when 1/3 still sided with the British, then the last third they didn't care. They were watching television in their mud homes, in their log homes.
No,
actually, it was the Dancing with the Stars 1773 edition.
And I want to say this: the gun, more importantly, guns are not, all important. What's more important than guns? A lot of things, obviously, spiritual things. Okay, store your treasure where your treasure is. That's where your heart will be.
Well,
store your treasures up in heaven.
Of course.
But but I just want to make a distinction here, because we're advocating for guns not to be banned, doesn't mean that we are going to want to use them. It just means we want the means to protect ourselves from people if they decide to do something crazy and violent towards us or somebody else that is around us. It is for protection. It's like having a savings account. You put money away so you can save money and have it for just in case of emergencies. It's there. Hopefully you don't have to use it. You can keep saving it. But if you do have to use it, you have to use it. I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but the same.
I understand, but it doesn't matter what we believe at this point. It matters what the opponents believe. And I find it interesting on Breitbart today. 3 reasons gun control is not going to happen. This is the headline on Breitbart. Well, I'll just give you the 3 reasons. The first one, of course, is the Biden Gun Violence Task Force. And the thought there is task forces are always effective ways to slow down a push for legislation. Well, that's a rather fallacious argument to me. I don't really subscribe to that in this case. The second reason Breitbart News provides is the 2014 midterm elections. Well, that to me is of the mindset that we still have fair and free elections in this country. And after what we saw here this year, anyone hanging their hats on the possibility of things changing with the midterm elections,
who cares?
I have to say that I think you're wrong.
Who cares? It doesn't matter anymore.
Well,
the political culture in America does not matter anymore at all, because we have what to look forward to. Well, we have legislation that is already in place to completely take everything we own, take all the land of this country, and imprison each and every one of us forever for no reason. They have the means to do it. They have the opportunity if they want to, and they have the plans to lay it out.
Right.
This is what they want to do.
Well, and the third reason,
the Bible prophecy. Well, and it's coming true right before our eyes.
Yes, it is. Yes. But again, this is where Bible prophecy meets current day events, and we're seeing it. But the third reason they give is the fact that Obama's press conference marked the high point of the push for gun control. Today, he gave a press conference, of course, pushing for it, but according to this author, the momentum is going to fade as emotions around the shooting recede. Well, see, this is where the follow-up attack or follow-up incident will take place, and, of course, the outrage among the progressive mindset. This is a manufactured mindset of the progressives. Please understand that. This is manufactured. This is not raw, knee-jerk emotion. This is pre-planned. This is orchestrated. And I want everyone to understand that, because it's very important to understand exactly what's taking place. Everything has been planned. Now, was the shooting planned? Yes. Boy, if I was...
Either way, it was planned. If by the kid or by...
Well, it was obviously planned by the shooter, but was it planned? Was it staged?
The real question was, is the person being blamed the real shooter?
Well, and here is the evil genius about this. We could spend days and days, and I heard part of Alex Jones today saying, "Well, we need private investigators to take a look at the events of the shooting and what have you, and sort things out." Well, look. You're into areas where you're never going to find the truth. If you look at Benghazi as an example, they've got so many things covered that you're just never going to find the truth. So what we have to do is we have to establish at this point in time, every one of us, if you're listening to this program in the United States, especially in the United States, we have to establish a proactive approach in playing our particular positions, and in this event, playing our positions and sticking to them.
Yeah,
and we have to make our plans, and you're part of these plans.
Yes, that's right.
All right. Now, before the show, somebody had called, wanted to talk about this very issue. So
yeah, we got Jim on hold. We're going to bring him on now. He wanted to talk about gun control
because they can disguise their actions.
Hey, Jim, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann report.
Oh. Hey, how you doing, Joe? Yeah, I was giving. Hold on one second. He just called me off guard. Let me pull my headset. But yeah, I was just calling because I just started to notice for the last month. I've noticed, because I work in, big institutions like GMAC and other banking places. I won't give the names up. And it seems like when you're working, you notice that you're working with some people that are foreign, and the immigration makes it very easy for people to sneak into the country that can be agents from other countries that are communists and manipulate a lot of things behind the scenes where everybody knows. And they can be, everywhere in, the music industry, the movie industry also. There's a movie that just came out recently that actually shows the plan of North Korea, South Korea, whichever one, coming over and taking over the country, and then our entire government is ran by Korea now. And it was showing pretty much every single thing that you guys are saying. So it seems like evil has pretty much got us from every area to go. Area where we can look at it. I'm starting to notice.
I'm trying to follow you. Caller, I'm trying to follow you. What are you saying? You're saying that you're working with... the only thing I got out of this is you're working with immigrants?
No, the immigrants are... there is a increasing of immigrant population that is in the workforce.
Okay.
And these people don't have, from what I gather, Jim, if I'm correct, you're talking about their stance on the guns, their knowledge of what's going on in our political system?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Pretty much they're putting a lot of different things in place, where they can sneak these type of troops inside and have them undercover where people won't notice them. And before you know it, with a few years, they have their hands on a lot of things, and they're going to be there when they hit the red button. So you know how they do everything in secret and everything. And then with the gun laws, every single type of law that you guys have been speaking of, they've been pushing it on the news in front of us pretty much to precondition it into our minds and everything. And I don't know how it's going to be easier enough for us to really get the word out to other people. But I know that it does work through social media, even though social media is monitored and everything. But people are definitely starting to wake up after a while normalcy bias ends.
Right, and we have to address the role that social media is going to play in the upcoming days, weeks, and months ahead, because this is an extremely important tool that they're going to use. The globalists, the people behind the scenes are going to be using. We have to talk about this. We will talk about this tonight.
Yeah, Jim. Anything else before we let you go?
No, that's everything.
All right, my friend. God bless you. Thank you very much for your call.
Have a great night.
Yeah. Let's address the social media aspect right now, because I think it's very important.
Yeah, and I want to say, like we said before the call, I talked to him before the show, and we're have a new kind of setup with the show. We're doing phone calls not until the end, like the last hour, maybe hour and a half. But I told him to call in, and we put him on.
There were some time issues, and what have you. So, but here's the information that I received directly from Homeland Security. I'll call him my DHS insider. The social networking is going to be monitored. Well, it already is monitored to a very large extent, but there are certain keywords that trigger that trigger surveillance, active person surveillance. Everything you would type in social networking, Facebook and whatever, if you upload a photograph, it's saved on computers, and it's also geotagged. And when I say geotagged, I mean they can tell the exact time you took the picture, the date, the location. I mean, the longitude and latitude, right down to the square foot almost. And that's a feature, by the way, especially on your phones and cameras. But unless you physically manually disable that. But then, nonetheless, it's on a timeline, and that's one of the reasons why Facebook created a timeline as well. It's actually working with the feds, working with the NSA, and for surveillance purposes. But according to the information we got today, and developed over the last couple of days since the shooting, actually, the keywords are going to be focused on the politically charged the statements against this administration. It's also going to involve weapons, ammunition, certain keywords, AR-15, for example, or AK-47, or automatic, semi-automatic, anything like that. It's going to trigger a manual in-person review. Now, I understand what a huge job this would be, but they have programs that can assess whether someone's just messing around, type in bomb, 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 or, whether this is a real situation. And they will use that as a tool, a law enforcement tool, to ferret out or to provide to the various responding entities to come after you, your weapons, your ammunition, your contraband, if you will. This is so. If I were you, I would be very careful with what I post. And we've got Facebook accounts, but certainly we don't put anything personal up on it.
And you're talking about the bans of the.
Yeah, I'm referring specifically to this.
Yeah, because I didn't hear the very beginning of what you said. I was reading this article about. It's titled "How Guns Make Us Less Free." It's an opinion page on the New York Times.
Of course, and if you have a chance, folks, I would say listen to yesterday's program as well, because we went through the history of the gun control from 1919 in Germany through the end of the Second World War, just touching on some key points, some high points. And it is unfolding in parallel in America today, what happened back then. It's an amazing, it's not by coincidence. This is by design, because they're using the same template. And don't forget about the World War I and World War II and all the wars basically were fought by or were fought at the behest of international bankers.
Correct.
And see, as soon as we mention something like that, it seems as though, well, my goodness, that's such a fringe thing to say.
No, I won't. Yeah, what you just said, I thought of something. Because if we have the phone lines closed, really, we're not taking calls. But during the second hour, anybody who thinks we should have gun control, we would like to hear from you to talk about it. I wanted to hear your point of view, your opinion, and we're not going to ridicule you.
No.
We're not going to argue with you. We just want to. We don't even have to debate. I just want to hear if you do support a gun ban, gun control, and why.
And what we have to look at this, folks, as a learning process, because if you understand where we are in the current course of history, then people that think that way, that say, well, we need to ban weapons, or we need to regulate weapons more, or the Second Amendment is not for personal gun ownership. It has nothing to do with for militia. The key is this, though. I mean, the callers that will call in, or people that will write in, study the mentality behind it. Understand your enemy.
Listen to this. In the anti-gun article in the New York Times, it says our gun culture promotes a fatal slide into extreme individualism. It fosters a society of atomic individuals isolated before power and one another, and in the aftermath of shootings such as Newton, paralyzed with fear. That is not freedom, but it's quite opposite. And as the Occupy movement makes clear, also the demonstrators that participated regime change in Egypt, Myanmar last year, assembled masses don't require guns to exercise and secure their freedoms and wield world-changing political force. And it goes on to say that individualism is a political and corporate interest aimed at nothing less than individualism, since it is far easier to manipulate a collective. Guns undermined just that. The pervasive open presence would show apprehension, suspicion, mistrust, and fear, all emotions that are corrosive of community, civic cooperation. To that extent, then guns give license to autocratic government.
Well,
I mean, look, these arguments that they come up with, right, these way they word things is part of the attack agenda. It is the way that they try to persuade people who would sit down and read a newspaper to come across. I mean, they don't just do these constant op-eds and news stories on these gun bans just because it's news. They do it for a purpose, just like the Syria chemical weapons thing. They continue to bombard us with those articles because they know it's coming.
I do want to, since you mentioned Syria, before this gets away from me, I do want to mention this. Everyone in the world is being told to watch for Assad, for a chemical weapons attack, specifically from Assad, or they're associating Assad with chemical weapons, that in the same sentence. So any attack anywhere using a chemical weapon is going to automatically be blamed on Assad. Mm-hmm. According to the information we received, and this has been verified by a secondary intelligence source, the chemical weapon, there will be a chemical weapon deployment, an incident.
Or a mock chemical deployment.
No, well,
some kind of deadly attack that is said to be something terrible like we've never seen before, and
it will happen, though.
Yes.
Okay, but it's going to be blamed on Assad. Now, people don't think it can happen in the United States, and it could very well happen in the United States. And the reason for that is as people become suspicious of Benghazi, and this is something that weighs heavily on my heart as well. But we're not there yet. We don't have the traction yet. But as the truth is made known about Benghazi, the Obama Jared Clinton machine is doubling down, and their agenda continues. Why do you think the lie is continuing? Because the agenda continues. The objective remains. The plans are still going forward. But just trust me, when not if, but when a chemical weapons attack does happen, it will be blamed on Assad. Now, one more thing, since we're on the Benghazi, Syria issue.
Yes, please talk about your article today.
I was really amazed at the report. HomelandSecurityUS.com, and
I'll post it in the chat room. It is called "The Wretched Absurdity of the Benghazi Report."
You know, the only thing I would ask of our listeners and people listening to this is, please click the like button. Please read the article first, and then click the like button at both HomelandSecurityUS.com and CanadaFreePress.com. And I'll tell you what this does. This does affect the social networking sites, and it affects a number of different formulas, and it actually advances the information on the information superhighway. I don't know how it does it, but it does it. Okay, so, but here's the issue with this report. And again, there's so much, ladies and gentlemen, there's so much to talk about, and there's so many things, but this is so important because what we're seeing right now, we are being prepared for World War III. There's 4 dead Americans. There's 40,000 plus dead Syrians. As Obama, Clinton, Jarrett, as their plans move forward with the Muslim Brotherhood, but when Assad is toppled, you will see 4 million dead in Syria.
Where'd you get that number from, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I do mind you. I do mind. Now, that number comes from, and it's cited in either part 2 or part 3 of my series, a Dr. Singh, who is very familiar with the there's 19 separate factions, 19 sects, S-E-C-T-S, in Syria. 19 different factions. And Syria, by the way, was among the countries carved up after the war by Great Britain. And the Assad right now plays the role of keeping everybody at bay. It's peace, but it's not a nice peace. It's just he's keeping everybody at bay. If you take Assad out of the equation, you will have a war against Christians, specifically against Christians, a war against some of the other religious elements, their organizations in Syria, and others. This by Dr. Singh. I don't have the article in front of me, but it's an extensive essay and evaluation and assessment on what would happen if Assad is taken out of the equation. And again, it's linked in with one of my articles. And by the way, folks, I am going to be putting these articles into a downloadable format that... What are you laughing at?
I did. Nothing. It's so stupid. When you said that I was going to be putting these articles, I thought it just popped into my head a message in a bottle and shipped them off Lake Erie. It's weird. Never mind.
Are you on something tonight or
no?
What?
I don't know. It just instantly popped into my head and made me laugh. I'm sorry, guys. That was funny.
Wow. All right.
Only if you could be inside my mind.
You know, sometimes sometimes I just can't admit you're my offspring. I just can't do it.
No, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. You know what? these are heavy look, folks, these are heavy topics we're talking about. And you know, I got to tell you, if you exist in this realm of this heaviness, you know, without having a chuckle or two,
yeah, really,
it can really consume you.
I want to say, you know, I do have personally, I laugh all the time. I love to joke around and be sarcastic. I don't do a lot of that on the show at all. And you know, I should. It's not that I'm not myself on the show, but I'm more serious. I'm more.
Well, there's a time and a place for it.
But I mean, yes, we all need to have be lighthearted. We need to, you know, we need to have that. I mean, because if we don't, there's something wrong with us spiritually. We're not happy. We're not in a good place. We're not.
Right.
You know, it's bad. I mean, you see people all the time that walk around that look like my dad.
Like me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He just always looks like he just wants to punch somebody. And every time you talk to him, you know, you ask him, "Hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee?" And it's like he answers like I just asked him to borrow $100. It's weird.
It's a mental illness, honest.
No, I have those moments too, but
okay, back to this. What happened is this: last night, when all eyes were on the Newtown massacre and the shooting, the Pickering panel, or the Accountability Review Board for Benghazi, which was actually brought into existence by Hillary Rodham Clinton, or established by Hillary, issued a 39-page unclassified report about the events in Benghazi. Now remember, folks, Benghazi is a window to the agenda of the globalists. So this is why it's important.
I would say, to take one step further, the Arab Spring,
right? Yes,
is the
well. Benghazi provides an oops moment.
Yeah,
where everything is shown.
Yes, that is like Benghazi and the Arab Spring would be like Fast and Furious and the Brian Terry situation. It exposes it for what. You know, the operation really is. This, what right. With Brian Terry was the being shot down, gunned down by somebody using a firearm provided to a drug cartel by the U.S. government. That exposed, you know, more of that story.
The Border Patrol agent,
Brian Terry, yeah. And that really exposed more of the story and brought it out to the public view more. Now, this Benghazi situation has been you know, covered up and kind of pushed aside for other things like the fiscal cliff, which was a diversion, like you said, the fiscal cliff ordeal.
It doesn't. The fiscal cliff really does not matter.
It was a diversion, right? And what was the hot topic before that? You know, and around the elections, before the elections, it was the Benghazi everything. And then the fiscal cliff stuff came, and
Benghazi was never ever really discussed in any meaningful level on any network, with the exception of Fox. Maybe yes. A little bit. And the only reason it was discussed on Fox, and I'll tell you this flat out, there's only one reason why Fox took this information and ran with it during the time it did.
And Beck did too. Yeah.
And Beck. Both outlets were because of the same person I'm talking to. And I'm not talking out of school. We've got the same sources. Because if you look carefully at certain key words and key phrases, you'll see a common thread. And but I say that only to validate my source. But the Benghazi report, let me just say this. And again, what I'm about to say, it doesn't matter whether you believe it, but it's something that I told Joe earlier today. I didn't even pick this up until I was told about it earlier today. This is a 39-page report.
Yes, 39.
Okay.
I have new knowledge about the number 39 tonight, and you guys will too here shortly.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this, and then of course this was released last night, and I'm looking at this after our show last night, and looking at this 39-page report, going through it, going line by line, and trying to figure out exactly, what they were saying. Well, as I found out today, 39 is a key number, and please bear with me, but 39 is a key number in the, I don't want to say Illuminati, but the globalist interest, the globalist crowd, the people that run things. They attach significance to numbers, to symbols, to the various dates, And again, it doesn't matter if you believe it or if you think it's real. They do. So that's something. So 39 means...
On the other side.
Okay, on the other side. You'll find out. Yeah.
Folks are listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Wednesday, December 19th, 2012. For those joining us late, tomorrow night, 3 hours with Doc Marquis. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Decaf, Joe, decaf. Hi, folks. Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilita Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the Internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the Internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies that work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations that work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Hold on to your seats. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
All right.
Yeah, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special Wednesday edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is my son, Joe Hagmann. Together, we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I'd like to say a special hello to a room full of listeners. I don't exactly know what that means, but a room full of listeners in New South Wales, Australia. Welcome to our show, and also to a couple of people in Canada, including Brian. Not with CFP, but a different Brian, and Ron and Jeremy. Thank you for listening. Okay, before the break, folks, we were talking, or I was mentioning the report that was issued during the night, late night about Benghazi. This was the product of the Hillary Rodham Clinton Accountability Review Board for Benghazi. Now, if you recall, October 4th of this year, Thomas Pickering was named in the Federal Register to head up this five-member panel. He was along with Mullins and a few other people. Well, they issued an unclassified report in advance of their testimony today and of course tomorrow, which Hillary is not going to be attending because of her spell that she suffered.
Yeah, that
and folks,
made her faint.
Remember, if you can, remember what we talked about, Hillary Rodham Clinton and the spell that she suffered. And now, before I go on, I would like to issue yet another extensive homework assignment for all of our listeners.
Does this include me?
It does include you.
I'm going to stop listening.
Double. You double. In fact, you've got detention after. But no, in all seriousness, we attempt to find the truth wherever it might lead. And this odyssey to find the truth, it takes you in some pretty strange paths. And just very quickly, I remember doing a case for an insurance client. It was a death of a young. This is actually when Joe was I don't know, probably 7 years old. It was a death of a young child that happened in northeastern Ohio, and it was for a $high insurance claim that I was asked to investigate this death. And to my surprise, and I'll spare you all of the details, but to my surprise, this was a ritualistic killing of a young boy. Now, I did not believe that existed.
Yeah,
in anywhere, and that was my first encounter with this kind of event, a ritualistic satanic killing of a child.
Yes, and I just want to add this, that it's not just things like this in the open with these shootings. There are much more ritualistic killings behind the scenes for demonic purposes than we could ever imagine.
So, yes, and the reason I mentioned that is because before I took that assignment and before I actually got into that assignment, I did not realize that stuff was really real. And I thought, man, these people are sick. Well, the more I started asking questions and talking to the local officials, the police department people there, they said, boy, we've got a real problem with witchcraft and devil worship, and I'm listening and I'm thinking, are you guys serious? I mean, really? You've got a problem? And pentagrams in the woods and animal sacrifices. I mean, it was bizarre. It was really bizarre. So, before you close your mind to anything, I just urge you to not close your mind and know that things exist, even though you might not have any personal experience with them, or you might think that they're outlandish, or so far few and far between that it's crazy. It's not. So the extended homework assignment I have, that I would really like people to do. There is a gentleman by the name of Gary Bell, kind of like Art Bell, except it's Gary Bell. And he has a show every Saturday night for 3.5 hours out of Toronto. If you do a search, Gary Bell, AM 640, Toronto. His show is titled A View from Space. Now, you will find on the internet streaming audio of his shows. They're not necessarily, it's kind of cumbersome the way that their shows are, the way the shows are maintained. And I'm not even sure he maintains them. I think it could very well be someone else does, but nonetheless, my request, my homework assignment to you folks, if you so choose, and now that there's people are going to have some downtime with the holidays, just what you want to do, right? Listen to more talk radio. Listen to this man. I was actually directed to this man to understand things like the Olympics, the significance of the symbology behind these people that operate or behind the scenes. Because the more I investigated, just like that case in northeastern Ohio that I was referencing, just like that, here I'm finding that, behind a few rocks here and there, this is real. This stuff is real, and it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter whether you believe it, doesn't matter whether I believe it, doesn't matter whether anybody believes it. But the people involved believe it. And the one thing I've noticed, or the one thing that I've learned from my research, including but not limited to Gary Bell, is numbers mean things between the power brokers. And I didn't catch this until it was somebody caught it for me and brought it to my attention. The number 39 is a 39-page report, and the individual who I spoke with earlier said, well, yeah, first sentence, 39-page report, that's all I needed to know. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, huh? What do you mean? Well, 39 is a significant number in to the I hesitate to use satanic forces, but to the elite, if you will, and I'll just call them the elite. 39 is a significant number. It means the fix is in. 39 is a triple of 13. Now, you might think, boy, this guy is just off his nut, he's talking crazy. But 13, 12 apostles plus 1, 13. Okay, 13 is a power number. So 39 is a triple 13. Those of you familiar with numerology and that type of thing understand what I'm referencing. Those of you who don't, and even if you do, please listen to Gary Bell. And if you're new to him, or if you've never heard of him before, I would do like I was told to do, and I did. Begin with, let's say, something around the August 4th, sometime around August 4th when the Olympics were taking place, and start there. Now, he's got programs before and after, but start there as just kind of like a bookmark, if you will. And you can go back and forth. And just listen to it. And when you listen to it, have a notebook and pen handy and take notes. Because what he does say, and it's a lot of information. And it goes back, it involves biblical. One thing he does say is, for example, the Illuminati, the people that are the power brokers. I just probably lost like 1,000 listeners, just now. But anyway.
No, only 700.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
But they follow, for example, the King James Version of the Bible to the letter. See, they follow that. But I don't want to ruin the homework assignment. It's you have to experience this, and you have to have the desire to understand. That's the key. You have to have the desire to understand the secret handshake, the secret double, wink, wink, nod, nod, super secret handshake among the power brokers to really understand what we're talking about. Now, Doc Marquis is going to get into that probably tomorrow night. But so the number 39, being a 39-page report, I just thought, well, it's heck. I've issued 39-page investigative reports. It was meaningless to me. I just happened to be 39 pages. But a lot of times,
was it meaningless? We might have to go back and review.
Maybe it was. But 39 means the fix is in. And when you read the report, basically the fix is in. There were 5 key points to this report, and I'm not going to go through the report itself because really it would be a waste of time. You can do it. It's accessible via HomelandSecurityUS.com. You click on the word report in the article, and it brings up a 39-page PDF file that you can download. But I thought it was rather interesting because it does quote, there's a famous quotation, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. It's a 1905 quote. Yet, it seemed to add a little intellectual prowess to the flavoring to the report. But the bottom line is this: no one's going to be held accountable for the deaths of 4 Americans, the 40,000 plus Syrians, and the yet undead, or the currently undead, 4 million people that will die as a result of this regional war. But the bottom line is Pickering, the head of this, is a George Soros associate. And also, Pickering has close ties to Iran. And Iran figures prominently is because who attacked the embassy? Who attacked the CIA compound in Benghazi, but Ansar al-Sharia? Well, Ansar al-Sharia is Iran. So the fix is indeed in. And I guess the individual that told me all he had to see was 39 pages was right. Now you might think, well, that's really strange, that's really kooky, Doug, but look, it's funny things. Open your mind and don't have tunnel vision, I guess is what I'm saying.
I want to read you a quote from this book written from 1905, published in 1925.
1925, all right.
But they started in 1905.
All right. What book you read?
It's called Civic Psychology. Look, you see the wings of the eagle there? I bought this at a bookstore in New York now.
That's right. I was with you, of course.
And folks who are watching video, it's Civic Psychology. It's a very old book, about 100 years old. And it talks about...
It's got the wings of, you would think...
The rising of the phoenix.
It's a phoenix.
Correct. And this is... going through this book, there's so much to point out here about future events that took place that were talked about in this book. Welfare, the growing of welfare, and just many other things. But there's a part in here, how America might lose her soul. And it goes into talking about, this man was asked, what would happen, he was asked to forecast the future of America. After a moment, he remarked, abundance, luxury, complacency, decline, desolation. It goes on to say,
okay, this was, once again, this was planned excuse me, this was in the works. The planning to take down America has been in the works for the better part of the 20th century.
Yeah, now listen, it goes on to say those who have wealth, will waste it foolishly, with foolish expenditures, the waste of national resources on things not really beautiful but pricey, chiefly because the costliness may not pinch us worse than a July drought on the Corn Belt. And he goes on to say, the nation survives such drains as these. Among the persons with great spending power, there will be always those who wish to grasp the gold, toothbrushes, and we cannot stop their fling. It's about money.
It's about priorities.
And the fashion and the society. Perhaps social ridicule and better education will lessen the number. It is unfortunate that not only the rich, but many other classes of people are led to extravagant ways of living, which tend to weaken their moral fiber. And he goes on to say, it is then not the wastefulness of luxury that may bring about the national decay, but the general acceptance of the standards which express themselves in luxury. And there's a quote in here. It says, this is it. To be poor was not merely the sorest disgrace and the worst crime, but the only disgrace and the only crime. For the money, statesman sold the state, and the burgess sold his freedom. Man had forgotten what honesty was. A person who refused a bribe was regarded as an upright man, but as a personal foe. And it goes on to say that this culture, it goes on to how to save America, but it says here, the main thing is to make general among us the habit of measuring the worth of a man or a woman by the service to society and not by the costliness of the style of living. And
well, that strikes to morality. It strikes to all of what we're seeing.
And I just read a few sentences of 2 different pages, but if I were to really get into it, it really talks about how living in complacency, being comfortable, how it can plague nations. And it goes on to talk about Rome and how it collapsed through the parallels between American Republic and the Roman Republic.
So it
abundance of luxury, right, and their evil consequences.
And we all know what happened to the Roman Empire.
Yeah, and it talks about, it is a moral problem. And it says, if we were going to save the nation, it says, like I said, this was written about 100 years ago, it says that people, if they're only smart in the year 2000 as they were in the 1800s, then the Republic will be okay.
Well,
and we know how that turned out.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So, where have we gone so far in this show? We've touched on Benghazi. Obviously, the report is just a bunch of hooey that fixes in, and no one's going to get blamed or no one's going to be held accountable for what happened. We're talking about the blowback from the shooting. We're talking about how the surveillance state will increase now. Also, information about another, and you can expect another, perhaps, mass event that will seal the deal, so to speak, with respect to gun ownership between now and we'll say Christmas. So we're entering a very dangerous and perilous time. And we're also looking at this lawlessness, this nature of lawlessness, or not lawlessness, but this tossing away the Constitution that began long before Obama, obviously. But Obama is now the guy to come in and actually to rip it to shreds. So this is what we're talking about. And we're watching the plans unfold before us. And at this point now, and of course, my request for the listeners, if you are interested in really getting into the deeper side of things, of the people behind the scenes, how they think, they're real mind bender. Once again, I would recommend, if you have a pen and paper there, listen to the archives of Gary Bell, AM 640. His program is called A View from Space. It's not about space. I mean, it's not about that. It's just that's the name of his program. But it kind of gets into it lays the foundation better than any Discovery Channel or any faction or any fiction or any nonfiction documentary type of program you might find on the History Channel about signs, symbols, numerology, and how the elite think, and the bloodlines of people and such. It's a very interesting and necessary component to really understand the larger, and I mean the larger picture, because what's going on here, and if you just take a tour of the internet, you can find all these sites that say, oh my goodness, for example, the remarks by Piers Morgan, against Larry Pratt. And why I bring this up is because people look at this at face without really putting any thought into the actual intensity, the emotion, the intent behind this exchange. If you haven't seen this, don't watch it or don't listen to the exchange between Piers Morgan of CNN.
I saw that.
And Larry Pratt. I mean, it's like it's just watch it to learn from it. Learn from where these people are coming from. People like Piers Morgan are coming from. Understand the mentality, because we are going to, we look at in a very short period of time, at a very critical point. We are going to have to understand the enemy in order for us to survive, to react appropriately and act appropriately so we can survive. Because we're going to get hit with laws, we're going to get hit with procedures, with extra constitutional mandates, and we're going to have to make some personal and professional decisions.
Yeah.
And in order to make informed decisions, we're going to have to understand the mindset of what's coming at us.
We're going to have to make decisions. We're going to have to make plans. And I know a lot of people have problems with their families and, preparing and plan making. But, do it yourself and put it together and give it to your family members. Write it on paper and say, hey, I know you don't care, you think I'm crazy, but just keep this just in case.
Yeah, and this whole thing, this is not a sprint. We're not involved in a sprint.
No.
We're involved in a marathon. And I think people have to understand that.
A never-ending 24/7 spiritual battle. It is.
Yes, it's as it is above, so it is below.
You're right. I mean, we deal. Every day obviously we see the physical world. We encounter the physical world. We talk to other humans. We are on this earth.
And sometimes I talk to dogs.
But there is a spiritual world out there that we don't see. Okay,
very much
and
so.
People understand this, obviously. People like to use the Bible and I was talking with Doc Marquis today about how the TV series like Ancient Alien Astronauts exploit the Bible by trying to say it wasn't God. They'll use the Bible as a reference to where their aliens came from, but they won't acknowledge who created the world and who is the author of the Bible.
And don't forget, though, that the Satan, Lucifer, whatever, knows Scripture.
Yeah, I mean, he could debate any one of us probably on Scripture better, and tear us apart.
Absolutely.
And that is the deception. He will come, as I said the last couple of days, as a man of charisma, a man of to the kids he will be the coolest thing in the world. And everybody will be like kids who looks up to this man. Like Obama in 2008.
Very much like that, but it's even going to be more insidious than that.
And that shows us the example of how the people reacted to Obama in 2008. Just because it wasn't because, I don't believe it was because it was the first black president. I don't believe it was because,
there's a spirit involved there.
Right. Hillary Clinton was running also in the primary, and so it could have been a woman. But either way, the people wanted change. They wanted something different. They believed in what this guy was saying. And look how that happened.
Yeah,
look how that worked out. Imagine when the real deception comes, how much worse it will be to convince your loved one then. If you can't do it with Obama, imagine how bad it will be when the true man of lawlessness comes on the scene.
And people, and this is one thing, and I've got to thank, believe me, I owe a lot to this one gentleman, and I owe a lot to some other people as well. But one thing that I was told, and it makes perfect sense to me, at times like this, like we're experiencing, and you're looking for this Antichrist, either as a person or as we'll say a person, and you're who in the world? People are looking under the chairs and under rocks and in caves and, under the bed. I mean, people are looking in all the wrong places, because one thing I've learned from my research, and take it for what it's worth, just take it at face value. One thing I've learned from my research is the best place to hide is in plain sight.
I disagree.
What do you mean you disagree?
The best place to hide is under God's protection.
Well, no, I'm talking about...
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I just want to throw that in there because...
the spirit of... the cloak of Ephesians, right, I understand that. But what I'm talking about is, people are looking for this demonic, ugly, upsetting type of... person to come on the world stage
with horns and a pitchfork,
right? As in a cartoon type atmosphere. It's not going to be that way. It's going to be such that
even the very
elect will be deceived. Right?
Could be deceived if it were possible.
Correct. And so I would just caution everyone to have the spiritual discernment to understand what's going on. And this is why, I think that we're at this critical time in history where we could lose a lot of souls, but we could also win. Or not win, but save. Yeah, save a lot of souls. Listen to Russ Dizdar again.
And
oh, man.
That's the true battle. It's not about losing our freedoms, our guns, that stuff is material. It's of this world.
Right.
And I know it is important to a lot of people. But when we're talking about eternity here, we're talking about why we're here on earth. We are here on earth to fulfill a mission for the Lord, to complete His will for the resting place of our eternal soul.
Right, but that doesn't mean...
That's on the line here. That's what we're here for.
You're
right, and it doesn't
100%
mean we lay down or give up, but we have to prioritize.
See, in both, they're mutually... they're not mutually exclusive. We can do both at the same time. We can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Well, if it is based in Scripture, yes.
Yeah, of course. But the real danger is not from the obvious. The real danger is from that which deceives you, and deceives you fully. And that's where your spiritual discernment, the Scripture, comes in and comes into play. But getting back to the real, the reality, the real nuts and bolts of what's going on today. Look, we've got a civil war brewing, and as I mentioned...
civil war, that's fearmonger talk.
Well, of course.
Who's going to have a civil war? I understand that the Democratic media seems to think that the Republicans want to take us back to slavery. That might cause a civil war if they did that. Brought back slavery. But no, in all sarcasticness aside,
please.
Yes, they do want to foment a civil war, and they have been in the process of not only trying to foment it, but they have prepared for it. They have planned out agendas. If it does happen, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, when they're going to do it. If it doesn't happen, how to start it, how to stop it, what will be the beginning and end. I mean, they cover all aspects and roads. They are meticulous when it comes to this stuff. Reading a PDF right now on radicalization, and they talk about studying the radicalization process, and they talk about
we have been subjects of studies. Understand that.
Yeah.
And everyone talks about their line in the sand. How about their line chiseled in stone? See, the thing too, folks, is this: Americans apparently have this high tolerance for being pushed around. We can, like I said, we can be groped at airports, and our rights can be taken away from us on the highways and the airports and other places.
People don't want to ruffle feathers.
Right. And then all of a sudden, a hot button issue about guns comes up. Now, will this be like the revolution where you're into thirds? A third is actually going to stand up and say, no way, and the third is going to side with the forces to take away the guns, and the third is just going to be, they're going to be watching, reruns of various television programs. And I do believe in that formula. I think that's how it's going to play out. I really believe that you're only going to have a third, even maybe a third, listening to this program.
I talked about that with someone today. How many people, are going to be saved? How many people are going to be in heaven? How many people are going to take? I mean,
but it's more than being saved. When I say about the third, I'm talking about the third who are actually going to fight against the tyranny. Now, again, the two are not different. You can do both at the same time. But I'm talking about the practical earthly element where the Civil War, you have a third of the population who says, never, not once, not me, not now, never. And they're going to fight against the tyranny. You've got the third who's going to side with the tyranny, and you've got the third who's just going to sit it out. But that does not, you can blend in that spirituality and that godliness.
When I was in the shower, I had a thought. Thomas Jefferson's quote, "Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God." And I thought about that, right? And I was thinking in my mind, resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. And
may I
don't believe that. It's true.
What's wrong with you tonight?
Because God establishes nations, kings, correct? He made the pharaohs of Egypt's hearts cold when he is the orchestrator.
Okay.
Does Jesus say in the Bible, resist and fight tyrants? He says, fight against evil, which, you could consider tyrants evil. Obviously they are. And then he's over there shaking his head. And I'm not articulating myself properly, I guess.
No, you're not.
But there is more to it than, I don't know. I just don't see how a civil war, being involved in a civil war, can do any good for you spiritually, even if it's forced upon you.
Okay.
I understand, if things happen, it's going to happen. But the real question is, like I said, people wear the what would Jesus do stickers. If Jesus was your neighbor and alive today, and the Civil War started, what would he do? This is a serious question. Because people have a train of thought that, it's okay to go out and
how did Jesus come the first time?
He came through a virgin birth.
Yeah, but he came, right? He came basically on a donkey. That's how is Jesus going to come the second time?
He is going to come in the clouds like a bolt of lightning.
With a sword.
Yeah.
Okay, now think about that for a moment.
For the unrighteous.
Okay. Do you think for one moment that it is spiritually, there's any spiritual merit in accepting tyranny? Okay, if that camera wasn't on you, I'd be slapping you silly right now, because I'm going to tell you something. Okay, God, in my view, does not want us to roll over. No.
He wants us to pick up our cross. Follow him.
You know what? He wants obedience.
Right.
God has asked us to be obedient.
Okay, perfect. Now, listen. What would be obedient in those situations? How do you stay obedient in that situation?
I can't even answer that question. You didn't even articulate it.
You have to remain obedient to God. Follow His commandments. Follow what Jesus said, because He expanded on the commandments a lot. Like as far as adultery, it's not just the act of committing adultery. If you lust after another woman, you are also committing adultery. You know what I mean? Your thoughts are sins also, instead of just your actions. There is a very deep meaning to each commandment. It's deeper than we can fathom. There is...
help me, Rhonda.
Look, I'm serious. This is heavy on my heart. We need to talk about this, and we can do it another day. The
idea here is
the spiritual answer.
Look, here is what I am saying with respect to this, and I don't really want to get into this, but in the practical sense right now, we are coming to a convergence of events where evil is prevalent in this country, in this world, but specifically in this country. The veil of protection. Think about what John Price wrote in The End of America. Because of our actions, because we have allowed our leaders to make it law, to make it legal to snuff out the 3,000 a day unborn children. We sob, we cry and rightfully so, at the death in Newtown, Connecticut. But what about, those were 20. What about the 3,000 that day that were aborted in the United States?
Yeah.
We should,
Yes, we should take action against it.
But now what we've got right at this moment is a convergence of events in this country. Because of our acquiescence for so long and our complacency for so long, we have now allowed ourselves to be put into the position of having to make a decision. And the decision is going to be either you fight, or you fight on the side of righteousness against tyranny, or you fight on the side of tyranny against righteousness, or you sit down and you watch television and you keep out of the way. Now, given those three choices, what do you think our Lord would want you to do?
I don't know. When that time comes, He will reveal it to me.
Okay.
And then that's what I'll do.
Well, then that's fine.
And until that time comes, I'm not going to take, I'm waiting to do His will here. I'm wanting to do His will on earth. That is what we're supposed to do. So,
as we all do. However,
it's just a question I feel that we need to discuss, because, as you said yesterday, there are people that want the Civil War to happen.
Exactly.
Trigger-happy people.
Yes, the people that say "bring it on" know not what they are saying. I mean, it's easy to sit behind a keyboard and to have all that bravado, and I love it, because the anonymity allows, or the internet allows this anonymity. Well, bring it on, and there's probably some 18-year-old gamer that's got Cheetos down his chin, typing that, that has no idea what he is asking or what she is asking. what she is inviting or he is inviting. But see, we're all men now. Let's put on our big boy clothes. Put on our big boy pants, and we have to realize that we are now faced with one of the most serious decisions that we have to make in our lives. Or we will be faced with that. I shouldn't say have to. We will be faced with that. And we have to prepare for that moment. But we do so prayerfully, and we do so knowing that my family is not going to be molested. They're not going to be taken away to a FEMA camp. They're not going to be groped, nuked, or otherwise prodded or molested. Now, if that is in disobedience of God, I don't think so. I don't think so, and nor do you, knowing you for as long as you've been alive. I don't think you believe that. Now,
my beliefs are changing as I am learning, reading the Bible more, as I am.
Well, then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put you in a booster seat.
What if your beliefs haven't changed?
We're going to have to put you in a booster seat and move you out of the way.
Where would you be today if your belief system hadn't changed?
Well, okay, you, like everyone else listening to this program, your beliefs are always evolving, always changing. And
right.
with age comes wisdom, usually, hopefully, not all the time, but as you grow and you see things and you experience different things, and that's why there's age limits, for example, on the presidency. Good theory. You have to be a certain age to be the president of the United States. In theory, that's right, because up until a certain point, you don't have that collective life experience. You might be a genius at 16 and be a doctor at 18 and be very good at that, but that doesn't mean you're a good. You've got that collective life experience wisdom of what we're talking about. I mean, you might be good at your trade, but beyond that. So that said, and I don't mean to demean you. I'm not demeaning you at all.
No, I know what you're saying, and I know where you're coming from because I was there. And I know in 6 months from now, you're going to say something similar to what I was just talking about, and it'll be great to hear you say it.
I don't believe that, and folks, and you can weigh in on this too. See, here's the thing: the line, the compass line or the compass point.
I mean, I don't know.
The moral compass does not change. It's true north.
I'm not
does
talking
not
about
change.
laying down, and quitting, and just saying, okay, I'm just gonna turn in my guns and die. I'm talking about surviving without disobeying the Lord. I'm not talking about. I mean, somebody posed a great question in the chat room. What are we defending?
Our
Constitution is gone. And what will be left at the end?
Okay, are we not instructed? And I'll throw this out to the people, and especially the people who are involved in the interactive chat. Are we not instructed to carry out God's work, God's plan, God's mission, or the mission we are tasked with until His return, or as long as we're sucking air? Aren't we tasked with that? Do we not have the responsibility to our families, to ourselves?
Of course we protect our families and other people. Of course we do.
We're not fighting for the stars and stripes at this point. We're fighting for survival. We're fighting so we can live another day, so we can save another soul, so we can help other people to get to the other side. We're going into this abyss, this dark tunnel.
Okay, but what would the world elite controllers, what do they want us to do? They want war.
No, well, ultimately,
right.
They want, ultimately, you know what they want? They want us dead.
Right.
Okay, so why make it easy for them? They want us dead. They want America destroyed. destroy. They don't want to transform this country. They want to destroy it.
Correct. And I'm not saying this because I believe in just laying down and giving up. They want us dead. They want this land for whatever purposes, for their own monetary gain. But it's bigger picture than that. When you get into the eternal spiritual battle, we know they're going to be harvesting the energy from the mass murders. They're going to be the genocide they're going to commit when they kill us. This is a spiritual battle. We have to be wise. Of course, it says to be wise. Now, to do what everybody else is going to do, in my opinion, is not wise. And I'm not saying I have the answer. I don't have the answer. It does not sit right with me. I have no problem with defending my family, defending myself.
Doing it, or because other people are doing it, you do it.
If the situation arises where I would need to defend myself from my neighbors, it happens, okay? But as far as participating actively, even if they started it, to actively participate, I just am looking to the Lord for answers on what to do. I'm not looking to anyone else. And that's how we have to be. We have to have that spiritual mindset. And if we don't, we're going to be lost. And without God on our side, what do we have? That's my point. And like I said, I don't have the answers.
But with God on your side, you can take part in the battle that is brought before you. Anything less is akin to suicide or abandonment of your responsibilities to your wife, your family.
I said that's not an option.
Okay, so I suppose we're arguing the same point from different angles, but nothing like listening to a family argument or a family discussion, and being frustrated by it, is it? And I'm sure some people are frustrated just by our dialogue here at this point. But at any rate, look, please understand that what we're seeing right now is a part of an agenda that is in motion. They are not going to stop. The leaders are not going to stop. They are going forward. They are taking us to a world war. They are attempting to divide and conquer us from within. And this is their plan. Obama is one of the puppets. And, and some would argue not only puppet, but he's developed his own muscles in a way. And we're doing this. This is brought upon by the international bankers because, of course, they hold the purse strings. So this is what we're seeing today as things unfold, and we don't know how long we have until everything goes white hot. The first shot is fired, or the first attempt at to take their guns is made. But it's coming.
Going back to what I said with the harvesting of energy. When I
don't even remember you saying that.
Remember we were on the phone after the show with your guy? And I asked him about that. He said what he said was right. What I read previously, it is the fear, the people who are afraid. There's a quote, a famous quote out there by somebody that said something along the lines of tyrants, or the devil hates the people who are afraid, or the devil hates the people who forgive their killers, or something along those lines. When you don't give them the energy of fear when they're killing you.
Okay, no, but that's a different.
I know.
That's a different.
But it's just, it goes to this mindset that we have to be above the physical all the time in our minds. We have to make our decisions based on the spiritual world, not on what happens here.
Well, I'll give you that. Okay. I'll give you that. We've got to be guided. Our actions have to be guided biblically. by sound biblical principles and by God? Of course. Okay. But that does not, once again, and it goes back to the tolerance issue. When you tolerate things like homosexuality, you tolerate abortions, you tolerate this abuse, tolerance itself becomes evil. And see, God does not like evil. At least that's what I read in the Bible. I don't think I'm wrong. And so when we see injustice, we are supposed to right it. When we experience injustice, we are supposed to, in my view, take action to prevent it. Otherwise, you can be so heavenly minded, you are no earthly good. And what does that help?
I'll say again, last time we talked about that phrase, I think that phrase is inaccurate.
Well,
you cannot be too spiritually minded.
To the point where you are a catatonic lump of pudding.
You wouldn't be spiritually minded if you were a catatonic lump of pudding. I mean, really. Somebody with the most spiritual knowledge, all the spiritual knowledge you could ever imagine. I mean, there's no way. I guess I don't know. That phrase just bothers me. You can't be too spiritually minded to be any earthly good. That's a neat phrase. It made sense to me for a while. It did, but it doesn't sit right with me anymore. So I don't know. Well, what do you guys think? We're going to take your calls. Top of the hour.
Let's take a break right now, and then when we come back, we'll take your calls.
And we got a lot of people on.
244-9839, 661-244-9839. We're going to have preference to the new first-time callers first, and those on hold the longest. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for this Wednesday, the 18th day of December, 19th day of December 2012.
Don't forget, tomorrow, Doc Marquis, 3-hour show, breaking down the Illuminati's plans, the Mayan calendar, deception, and the rapture, and whatever you want to talk about as we'll be taking calls tomorrow night.
If you are stumped, you don't know what kind of gift to give to a friend or a loved one, I'm telling you, you must go to 4physics.com. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. This is your one-stop shopping palace. That's the only way I can put it. I could spend easily an hour on this website. Innovative, fun, educational. There are games, books, weather instruments, unique time-telling devices, jewelry, optical devices, laboratory equipment. Let me give you an example. We all know we can tell time with a sundial. You've seen those advertised. Did you know that you could tell time by the stars? At 4physics.com, you can buy a horologium nocturnum. This was a navigational device used in the 15th century by navigators at night to tell time by the stars. It's beautifully crafted in the shape of a pendant made of bronze and pewter or gold and silver. Absolutely a stunning gift. I would be proud to give it to anyone. You must go to 4physics.com. Even if you're not stumped, that's 4physics. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. It's your one-stop shopping palace. Any problems that you have, I don't know what to get Grandpa, I don't know what to get my loved one, that's unique, you will find it at 4physics.com. Please take my word for it. Go to the website, but give yourself a lot of time because you're not going to want to leave.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Doug Hagmann. One guy that doesn't need a bullhorn to get your attention.
You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the third and final hour on this Wednesday, December 19th edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. A nice little debate we had there before the end of the last hour, and we're going to take phone calls now. So if you want to join us, give us a call at 661-244-9839. We are going to take your calls in the order of holding time, and as my father said, we are taking new callers, and we're going to go to area code 585 first. We're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
585. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. I'm just calling because I was listening to the two of you, and, you know, I know you're frustrated, Doug, but you know what? It's so good to hear the two of you banter back and forth, because I know that what you're experiencing as a family, we're experiencing as a family too. I mean, our loved ones talking about this and saying, what would we do? How would we react? And I can see both your point of views. And I think that as we go through this process, the more we read Scripture, the more we wake up, the more we learn. I mean, our feelings change from day to day. And as long as we keep talking about it, and, you know, it says in the Bible that Father can be against Son, and people will be in conflict. And it's given me comfort to hear you guys talking about it, because you're so relatable, and it's what we're all going through.
But you know,
they're in a minority.
Yeah, but I think too, as long as that dialogue stays open, there's always that potential for, you know, the one single mindset. And even though there's disagreement or there's discord, or even, I wouldn't even call it discord, even there's a bit of disagreement, there's at the end of the day, there's always that unity when faced with an external threat. So it's good to get it out now in preparation for what's coming, I think.
I agree. And I listened to both your viewpoints, and on one day I think one thing, and on another day I think another. But I just want to tell you that you guys are providing so much, and helping so many people.
Wow.
Just keep doing what you're doing, because you have no idea the impact that you're making. There's a lot of us that just listen. You know, this is my first call that I've made to you, but I've been listening to you for months. And I've talked to my sister, and, you know, the word is getting out, and people are waking up. And it's just nice to tune into you guys every night and turn off the TV. By leaving that TV off, the eyes open. My eyes are so open, and so are so many. And you are leading so many people to Christ and to the Bible. And for that, I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and it's nice to hear from you. And please don't be a stranger. Call anytime, and God bless you. And it's nice to know that we're making an impact. Sometimes I feel like I want to turn our own show off at times. You know, it gets to that frustration level, but it's nice to hear how it's affected you, and I want to just say thank you.
Well, thank you, and let's all put on our spiritual armor, and we're all in this together. God will take us through this.
Indeed. Well, have a
God bless you both.
All right, thank you.
God bless you, and thank you for your call.
Well, what a great call. I want to read you. I want to read you a real quick email here, Joe. It says, "This is from Larry. I'm not going to give a last name. Larry, thank you for this." He says, "We listen to your show. It's simulcasted every night from an FM station here in Montana. There's probably let's see here." He says he's a crotchety old Vietnam vet era. He gives no quarter to liberal, spiritual, or political, and speaks his mind with insight, wisdom, and discernment. He's been saved since 1958, and he's been making his life's work to stay informed and on track. And you know, I think that's what a lot of people are doing. That once you become awake and you just make it you become this purposeful instrument in the coming fight that we're facing, and
we're fighting now.
Yeah, and Larry, thank you so much for simulcasting our show there in Montana, and God bless every one of you in Montana. Great country, great area.
We're going to go back to the phone lines. Area code 406. We're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Oh, how are you, my brothers? Good show tonight.
Well, thank you.
Well, I wanted to, you're talking about this as an agenda, and Doug, you're absolutely right. My son just came back from Germany. He was in a sniper platoon, and they had him in headquarters for the last month because he was going to be sent home. And he had a captain download the whole operations, because you had to be a captain or above, from the Army's service network, so I know it's absolutely legitimate. And it's the manual on how to operate, re-education camps in America. It talks about identifying them by their Social Security numbers, getting the political dissidents away from the others because they can't be re-educated. And it's a huge manual, and like I said, it came off the Army servers, so I know it's legitimate. So
you're okay. So just to be clear, your son was okay. This manual was downloaded for use here in the United States. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, absolutely. Right. You had to be a captain or above to get it, but it came off the Army server, and it is the actual operation manuals for Army re-education camps here in the U.S., and it talks about U.S. citizens, identifying them by their Social Security numbers, and it's amazing.
Yeah, we have that report. What defines, though, a political dissident? Is it someone that disagrees with the current administration, whichever that might be, or is it someone who disagrees with the constitutional republic?
Well, I'm sure in their eyes it would be somebody who would disagree with the current administration and the laws that are coming out right now.
Ah, okay. All right. Interesting. Now, how does your son? How does your son feel about this? Where does he stand on this? If he were to be tasked with arming a re-education camp.
Him and his buddies, I guess, talked about it, and they said, they personally wouldn't tolerate it, just like if there were foreign troops deployed against American citizens. He said, one way or the other, they would have come back to the U.S. and they would be. He said, what they're not understanding is there's starting to become a large awakening in the military, and the new guys coming in, they're like, oh yeah, well, we'll confiscate weapons, blah blah blah. But some of the and the people who have been around a while are like, no, this is absolutely illegal, and we won't tolerate it. I mean, there will come a time if he said the desertion rate would be incredible, when they start to institute this kind of stuff.
Boy, that would make that's going to make our country very weak externally, or from external forces. But
absolutely.
Wow. Well, it's frightening.
It is, to think that they actually have this manual on their server. It is the nuts and bolts day-to-day operations of re-education camps in America. I mean, I can send you a copy of it.
Yes,
we have it.
Well, look, I know you've got. I know you've got it, Joe. But if you can, so
you can send it anyway.
Send it, because one thing I'd like to do, I'd like to compare, because I was told, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, I was told there are different editions of this manual. Now, I don't know if that's the case.
Boy, I don't know. This one was just downloaded about a month ago, so I'm sure it's the most current one. And like I said, you had to be a captain or above to get it. And he just happened to have a guy that he befriended who was a captain, who said, sure, I'll download it for you. And he brought it home to me.
Well, as long as it's not breaking any federal or military laws, certainly I'd like to, we'd like to take a look at it.
I think we went through part of that before.
Yeah.
Another point I'd like to bring up is, on all these different things, I think we have to be like Solomon. Solomon took each case individually and would judge it on its merits instead of just blanket, the whole thing. And he said, there is a season. There's a season for peace, a season for war, a time to live, a time to die. Even Jesus, and under grace, holds us to a higher standard than under the law. Under the law, you couldn't, commit adultery. Under grace, you can't even look at somebody or you've committed adultery. And Jesus, remember when he sent his disciples out the first time, he said, don't take anything with you. And the last time he said, if you don't have a sword, buy one. So, there's a time where we have to be like Solomon and take each case individual. And, like Thomas Jefferson said, if troubles come, let them come in my time so that my children can live in peace. And I know none of us are looking forward to what's coming down the road, but man, I mean, I'll spend sometimes 3-4 hours a night in prayer, and just in my gut, something just keeps saying something's coming. God I don't know what. I can't put my finger on it, but something is coming, and it's not good. And, just by the grace of God that I found you guys, and I do appreciate your show. I really do.
Well, we appreciate your call, and you can communicate with me by email. Just click on my name on the any article with on HomelandSecurityUS.com, and feel free to send me. But thank you for listening, and certainly keep in touch and keep us informed and posted if you whatever you might hear, so we can pass it along to our listeners.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm Roy from Montana, so I'll send you an email, and anything that comes down the pike, I'll let you know. All
right, Roy.
But, all right. Lord bless you.
All right. Bye. God bless you. Thank you very much, Roy. That was Roy from Montana. What a great caller, man! I'm telling you, we've got some of the best listeners of any talk show, and I've heard, man,
and we always say that we don't just say that.
No, and if you listen seriously, folks, if you listen to some of the callers on other talk shows, what we're talking about. You know that there is each one of you are obviously in tune, plugged in, and leaders, appointed leaders not anointed, but appointed leaders for the task at hand. So God bless you, folks.
Yeah, the woman that called in before this last caller saying she talks about our show. She talked about it with her family, and I mean that is just such a blessing.
Oh yeah,
to have people out there doing that.
We're getting feedback from all kinds of places, diverse countries and such, and but some of the more, I have to say this, some of the more sad, or what strikes me personally, folks, in my heart as being sad, are people from, in particular, Australia. For whatever reason, Australians are very vocal people about, or they're very quick to write to me and say, don't you guys understand what's going on? Can't you see what's going on in your country? We can see. Don't you understand that you're the last bastion of freedom? You fall, the world falls. And a lot of people, I'm just so afraid. What sticks in my mind is that video, and I've seen these videos from the Black Fridays from years before, but this last one, it just sticks in my mind. I'm thinking, this is what we've been reduced to. This is us, really, man. All right,
you're right.
All right,
we're going to the phones. Area code 413. We are coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hi, Doug and Joe. I just had to call in. I don't want to say that I have an opinion either way. You guys are really offering up a good discussion about this. A couple of scriptures came to mind when you were talking. And the first is that, we're to be in the world and we're not to be of the world. So we're set apart, even though, there's homosexuality and abortions. We're set apart. We're children of God. We act in a certain way. We're here. We're in the world, but we're not of it. Another scripture that came to mind immediately was, to live is Christ and to die is gain. That's probably a principle that I keep in my mind these days every day. And then another scripture that came to mind was, I remember, when some of us will be delivered up to the enemy in the final days. And I remember a scripture that, and I can't call it out by specifics, but it's just, we're to think not of what we will do in that hour when we're delivered up to the enemy, because the Holy Spirit will give us what to do. And I think there is what Joe may have been getting at, is that, we're really not supposed to be acting in our own will in the final days. We're supposed to be acting by the guidance of the Holy Spirit. We're acting on behalf of God. And that's kind of all I had to say about that.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with that, because I think at the appointed time, at the right time, at the moment when, at that moment, the Holy Spirit will make your mouth move, unlike mine's doing right now. Not like, it will make your mouth move, and the words will come out.
Right.
I believe that. So, yeah.
I think our gut instinct is we're going to protect our family. I will die for my family. That's my gut instinct. But I really don't want to take that initial half a step to run into a bandwagon of division in this country, because that is, Doug, you said it yourself, they're trying to cause us to be divided and conquered. So I think what Joe's trying to say is, I want to be wiser than that, and I don't want to fall into that feeding frenzy. Is that right, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. You guys are both. It's such an important discussion, and just thank you so much for having it.
Well, thank you for listening and for bearing with us and for being a part of the discussion as well, because you know you're an important part, and your contribution just now really it struck me. I mean, you know, it struck me and it affected me when you said about the Holy Spirit, and you know, at the right time you'll know what to say and act. So God bless you. Thank you for your call.
And you too. And I'll keep listening.
All right, that's
Have
good.
a good night.
That's a good thing. All right,
God bless you. Have a good night.
Yeah. You too.
Oh, you know, Joe, before we take another call, I do want to remind people, folks, one of our sponsors, a Freeze Dried Guy, it has a December special. And this caught my eye. All right, now, look, I'm not a guy that buys long-term food. I'm just not that kind of guy. Don't ask me why. I'm not. I know the Freeze Dried Guy, and we do commercials for him. But I just happened to see the December special, which is 6 10-ounce cans of freeze-dried beef. Now, the reason I mentioned, or not beef, but meat, the reason I mentioned this is we recently had a situation where some people were asking us about the long-term food storage. I just want to mention, just make sure I mention, and this is not an infomercial, but I want to make sure I mention, if you go to our website, HomelandSecurityUS.com, click on food, you'll see on the right-hand side, food security. Check out the December special. It's actually very inexpensive for what you get, like 144 days worth of food for like 200 and some bucks. I mean, it's incredibly inexpensive, and it's quality food. And the reason I know it's quality food is because I was sent a can of diced chicken, and I'm thinking, you know, I'm not going to like this. I am not going to like this. And I opened it and followed directions and stuff. And I ate it, and it was terrific. It was actually better than the store-bought chicken. But just check out their December specials. I had to say that because I was sent an email today, and the prices, I don't think I've ever seen it lower. So just wanted to say that. Joe, go ahead.
Just wanted to read a Bible quote about storing up treasures in heaven. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has pleased to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses for yourself that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will not be exhausted, where no thief comes near, no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Luke chapter 12, 32, verse 34.
As my good friend said, context. And you're right. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, moving on here. This article from the Los Angeles Times caught my eye. Fearful end-of-the-world callers flood NASA. If there's one government agency really looking forward to December 22nd, it is NASA. The space agency said it's been flooded with calls and emails from people asking about the purported end of the world, which is set on December 21st, 2012, according to the Mayan calendar. The myth might have originated with the Mayan calendar, but in the age of the internet and social media, it proliferated online, raising questions and concerns among hundreds of people around the world. I'd say millions of people around the world who have turned to NASA for answers. And they go on to say that people are calling them about Planet X, asking if there is going to be, he says, the questions range from, will a rogue planet crash into Earth? Is the sun going to explode? Will there be 3 days of darkness? Things like that. So they say they've had more than 4.6 million views on an interview with the scientists posted online.
Wow.
Answering questions about the planet stuff. And
yeah,
And they also included a video called "Why the World Didn't End Yesterday," and I guess it's up on NASA's website. It's a 4-minute clip to help stop the fear.
I look at this just a little bit differently than that headline presents.
No, I understand.
You know how I look at it is there are so many people out there that are searching, that know something's not right, and they're searching for answers, and
in all the wrong place.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know, but they're thirsty for knowledge, and so this is what happens. And I go back to when we become so spiritually bankrupt. And that the God factor, God is taken out of schools, out of our lives. That there's a vacuum, you know, and what's it filled with? Well, this kind of stuff. And I was talking to a gentleman today on the phone. I just got to tell you this real quick. I was talking to a gentleman, and I just making conversation with him. He's an old friend of mine. I did some work for him. We did some work for him in the investigative business. And just making conversation. And I asked how his family was. He said, fine. And I said, well, so did you get your house taken care of? He had a situation with his house. He said, nah, why bother? I said, what do you mean? He says, it's not going to matter, you know. I said, what are you talking about? Thinking that he had some sort of issue. He said, after Friday, it's not going to matter, right? And I, seriously, it took me a while to think to remember about the Mayan thing, and he started laughing. He said, "Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know. It's so far out of my mind that I don't see that as an issue. Yet, how many millions did you say? Tapped into that?
4.3 million.
Wow. So,
yeah.
All right.
Just a quick note. Couple quick things here. One, our favorite 9/11 first responder, Phil, is out of the Cleveland Clinic. No infection in his heart.
Good.
He is back home.
All right. Phil, I want to thank you very much. It was such just want to thank you for your update, and I want to say God bless you, and I'm glad you're back home safely. For those people who don't know Phil, here's a guy that went to the ruins in a recovery operation, and came away with permanent physical impairment. So that, wow, I mean, talk about making a sacrifice for your fellow man. That's Phil.
Yeah. Also, Chris in Colorado, their family, they had a family loss, and so keep Phil and Chris and Don in Colorado in your prayers, please.
Yeah, our hearts go out to you. Not sure exactly the nature of your loss, but any time you experience a loss is very difficult. And I don't have it within arm's reach, but there are so many uplifting passages, and you can find spiritual comfort in the Bible, and you can find spiritual comfort in prayer and in family. And look at us as an extended family. We care about what happens to you, and we care about your feelings, and you will be in our prayers, to be sure.
Moving on to the phone lines here. We've had some excellent callers tonight, and we're going to keep that going. Area code 304, we're coming to you now. You are live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What is on your mind this evening?
All right, guys, I finally got through.
Caller, what is your name, and what would you like to talk about?
My name is Michael for life. Anyway, you guys are great over here. You got a pretty big audience over here, and I hope that you guys continue and ignore my raspy voice. Anyway, the previous conversation regarding plans with the guns and what you would do in certain situations, I found that important. Because the reason I found that important is that for two reasons. Number one, if it's not planned out now, and if something happens tomorrow, you're in the same dilemma. But the second one is this. I saw both points from Doug and Joe. Doug, your point, I understand your point where you want to protect things, you see them taking things slowly away, and it's as if our hands are tied concerning this. However, to defend something is not always with, and I think you made that point, it's not always with it. And Joe, I see your point too, because we will be given the right thing to say if that time should arise. But the reason why I found it so concerning is that no one has agreed upon an initial plan now. We're diversified concerning that subject. And if it's not worked out, this is going to catch people off guard.
Boy, I could not have said that better. See, that's what I'm concerned about. Not that we want to, certainly I'm not looking for any type of leadership role, but I think I just want to sound the alarm that maybe we should start, thinking about what we are going to do and making some decisions now in preparation for events that will be taking place later. And I think that's probably, that's a wise thing to do. And realize the severity of the circumstances, because a lot of people walking around have no clue about how severe things are. But where do you stand? Just let me ask you this: where do you stand if you? And I'm not going to ask you. But if you owned, we'll say, an AR-15, just for an example, and 1,000 rounds of ammunition, and they criminalized that. And they said, okay, you've got 30 days to turn in your weapon to the nearest police station, and if you didn't do it, you would be considered a felon and subject to arrest, and they could search your home. Now, what would you do in that case?
Well, in that case, if it were a felony, now, not because of the law's sake, but of this sake, I know that I have to be around for others. See, my mind, when I'm not self-consumed on saving Mike, which is, and you have to realize I'm a soldier, so I'm used to this type thought process. But if they do ban those type weapons, right, and it becomes a felony, you put yourself at risk. You also put those close to you at risk. You're taken out of the picture. If you do that, what I'm saying is this. It's one thing to defend the Constitution, right, of the land. Now, that is America's freedom. However, if the entire structure begins to change in front of us, which it's doing right now, if it begins to change, we have to be careful in what we do so that if we don't survive this thing, then we're no good to anybody else. And the whole point is to perpetuate some type of morality in the future. There was another caller in there that said Jesus had told one of his prophets to put down the sword, but then he said pick it up. But where he said pick up the sword had nothing to do with the physical sword. It had to do with the entire armor of God himself. Now, in the Old Testament, yes, he gave orders, go conquer this, go conquer that. He didn't give the Hebrews any orders. An entire generation was slain because they murmured and complained. What are we doing here, walking in circles, right? But my point is this. We can't, if we have arms right now, they're a good deterrent, yes. But if they say take away the AR-15s, we're going to criminalize you. What good does it do to fight when you put those you could have helped at risk by you being missing? That's the whole thing. These are things we have to put in our tactical plans at home right now and figure these things out and say, what am I willing to do and what will it cost? Because everybody's ready to fight. Those of us in this chat room who believe in these things, we are ready to defend something. But what is it going to cost? At what cost are we willing to do this? Will we compromise the very thing we believe in? Will we betray the very thing we believe in to protect a right? Or will we give up that right and circumvent what they're doing, using our wisdoms to do it another way?
Interesting. That's an interesting viewpoint. And I think that's what Joe is kind of attempting to articulate, as you did it so very well. But where do you stop? At what point do you stop cooperating?
Well, this is where I think that a big picture is missing. Because all too often, I even have soldiers who think all too often. I heard the previous caller saying that he was mentioning the FMs, the manuals on the prison camps, okay,
right.
The concentration camps in America, okay. And you have some people that say, yes, we'll enforce it. Then you have some people say, absolutely not. I will not enforce that. But the problem is this. They're not going to enforce it like they think they're going to enforce it. We're really thinking there's going to be some type of a standoff. I can almost, with every fiber of my being, tell you it's not going to happen that way. It's going to catch people off guard. In fact, I tried to type in there several times that people are going to be turned against people only through ideologies. Mm-hmm. We've got to recognize that right now on TV, we are becoming our worst enemy. That's all you have to do is look and see at the division that's being caused. And I'm telling you now, they're laughing about it. And they even understand the supernatural aspects of this, but Christians can't capture that. It's time we got to capture this too. There's a very large supernatural part of this everyone is missing. And I believe Steve touched base on this when I first heard your show. And I couldn't believe that guy because I'd never heard of him before. But he's absolutely right. There's a large supernatural thing going on. And I'm telling you, I'm a fairly new, what scared the heck out of me was an offer I got from a Mason. I don't know the repercussions, but who cares? But I declined that. But as I learned about guys and talked to these guys, I'm telling you, they believe in some dark, mind-bending, mind-blowing stuff. They will seduce everybody they get around. And it's really, they're really deep into that stuff. I'm sure Steve knows much more about it than I am. My grandfather was a Mason, but I can't do that because I started reading the Bible. And as a soldier, I'm picking one side or the other, and I'll stay loyal to that side. And I have a different, as far as the Constitution, one more point. People, the Constitution being taken away is causing a lot of division. But think of this. Jesus gave each and every one of us a brand new Constitution that governs much more than one country. We've got to learn that Constitution. And we've got it. Now we can fight for that one spiritually. And it will reflect spiritually. That's how some people don't get harmed. I learned that the hard. If you fell 300 feet and you only got a scratch, okay, something's protecting you. That just doesn't happen. I'm telling you, there's a Constitution in the New Testament that we've got to stick to. And it parallels our Constitution, but not exactly. There's another aspect that a lot of people are starting to miss. So that's my position on that. There's something greater that I will fight for. But I certainly won't fight for something that's going to put somebody else in harm's way.
Interesting point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting and very helpful to the discussion, the discourse that we're having. Indeed. Wow. Okay. Well, that yet another, shall we say, viewpoint or strategy even. I would term that as a strategy because you are looking toward the future, but in a different, taking the fight in a different direction or responding to the threat in a different way, I think.
I agree. Thanks for your call. We really appreciate it and look forward to talking with you later.
God bless you. God bless.
I appreciate it, guys. And remember, you got a big audience over here.
All right, my friend.
Thank you. Have a good night. All right, moving right along here, we're going to go to area code 818. You're next on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What is on your mind tonight?
Hello, guys. How are you?
Very well. What's up?
Well, I was listening to the debate earlier, and, we're new listeners, me and my wife. This is our second show. But I wanted to chime in. I've been listening to the other callers, and I see both sides, so I kind of wanted to make a couple points. I'm also a former military, And I got to say, I think that the way things are going, well, let me first say, God has given us rules to live by, right? They're called the commandments. And, we as Christians, we do our best to follow those commandments. But there's also this earthly king, and that's Satan. And I tell you, if things go haywire, if they go bad here, I live near Los Angeles, I will, to the best of my ability, I will defend my family. If someone comes through my door, I will shoot them. I will kill them, and I will have no problem with that. I believe that we have a right to bear arms, and that's where our forefathers, you spoke of this before, our forefathers, they gave us this amendment so that in case of war, we would become the military. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm pretty passionate about this. You can probably tell by my voice. I will protect my family, but if the military comes to my door, like the other gentleman was saying, and says, hand me your guns, well, of course, I'm going to have to do that because I have to be around for my family. I have to be there. I have to be the rock. I have to be the husband.
As opposed to taking your 22 and shooting at an armored vehicle, and then thus is suicide by cop or SWAT team at that point. So you do it in order to live yet another day for a more strategic purpose, which I'm getting the feeling that
save more people with more time.
Well, yeah, but it's the situations. But what would happen, caller, if your house was filled? Let's like during Katrina, where there were 4 guardsmen to one homeowner, and then one homeowner was outnumbered. What would happen if those numbers were reversed? What if there was you and 5 of your neighbors heavily armed in your house, and 2 cops showed up, police officers showed up to collect your gun? Would that change your status at all?
That's a good question. I think that being a Christian, again, I think that the right thing to do is to obey the law. Now, there's a fine line in what a law suggests, right? So if it's a felony for me to have a gun, right, and I have several, if it's a felony, then I'm going to hand over my weapon.
Well,
but I don't care how many people are in the house. What I'm trying to protect my family from are the looters, are from people coming in without permission, trying to maybe cause harm to my family. Now, your question is valid. Now, where do we cross the line? Now, if they say, the guardsmen are coming in my house and they're just destroying my house and they're killing my animals, and then that's another story, right? So again, I see both sides of this, but my gut, my instinct tells me that God knows my heart, and He knows that I'm going to protect my family, and as well, I think anyone in their right mind would.
I agree.
Yes, man, you have to protect your family. Put them before, and not only your family, any person. Put those lives before your own.
And I think it's good. I think we're finding out here the diversity of opinion, yet there's a unity in the objective. There might be a diversity in strategy, but a unity in the ultimate objective here. So I think it's good that we're having this discussion now while we can still have it.
Yeah. While we can still have it, because there will come a time where we won't be able to talk. Caller, I got a question from somebody in the chat room for you. They just want to know if the Constitution, if the Constitution matters to you, like the right to bear arms.
Yes, absolutely. It matters to me, but my family matters to me as well.
Okay.
So again, like the other caller said, if it is a felony, right, and they're going to take me away because I don't give up my guns, what good am I going to do my wife and my children, right? They need me here. So, I mean, you see what I'm saying? There's that line.
There is. And that's where the discernment comes in. That's where, the Lord comes in, doing what He is willing you to do, what He is either showing you to do or doing for you in those times. That's why it's so, I say it's so much more important to rely on Him than a gun. If I see troops coming down the street, I'm not going to grab my gun first. I'm going to pray first. And I think that's, an issue of priorities, like we talked about at the beginning of the show. We have to have our priorities straight. Caller, thank you so much for
God bless you, my friend,
for the call. We're going to get to some other callers.
What a great call. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
God bless you as well. Have a good evening. Bye.
All right. We're going to go to Donna here. She's been on hold almost an hour at least. Thank you for your patience, Donna. You're on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What is on your mind tonight?
Well, actually, it's interesting. I listen to you guys every night. I don't even watch TV anymore. And the subject that you two talking is so refreshing, and it's something I've been kind of battling with in my mind as I read the scriptures and become more Christian. And well, I'm a Christian, but you know what I mean. As I grow in my Christianity, it's one of the things I was, when do you fight? When don't you fight? Turn the other cheek. So you guys, this discussion is so welcome, because I was, doing some praying about it earlier today. And also, I wanted to share with Joe something. I decided to make some phone calls in my area. I live in Colorado. I don't want to say where. Well, actually, I do. I live in Pueblo, Colorado. I really don't care. I don't own a gun. I'm probably the only person on my block where the Jehovah's Witnesses come. I grab my Bible and they run. Literally, they can't wait to get to their car because we had this discussion. No, seriously, he's going, oh, you got to give up your gun. I guess they don't fight. But I said to him, well, if you take away the rights of the people to bear arms, then what happens when they take away your right to knock on my door? And he didn't have an answer for me. He had to get in the car. But I will talk to them. But they do run from me because I do talk about Jesus a lot. But that's another subject. The subject I want to get to is I called around, and I'm actually going to get dressed and put on a suit and do the whole thing, but called around to get a feel, because I thought, well, we can take away my right. I don't own guns anyway because I never could fire one anyway. I grew up around them. I have a great respect for them. My cousins were hunters. My dad was a hunter. My stepdad and my uncle, everybody hunted. So I grew up around them. And but the point I want to get to, that I'm alluding, is so I called churches. And I won't mention names of churches I called, but I called some prominent churches saying, look, I would like to talk to you about getting a consensus together to fight the abortion issue. Would you be willing to lose your 501c3 in order to promote stopping abortion, to stop the slaughter of children? Well, they either hung up on me, wouldn't talk to me. One woman said she supported abortion.
Really?
So,
wow.
I'm serious. I was so upset that day I had to pray for them.
Wow.
I was just really upset, and I just said, I have to pray because I'm having mean thoughts for these people. And I don't tithe to churches, by the way. I tithe to you. I tithe to Coptic Christians in Egypt. I tithe to Jewish people. There's a Jewish Christian organization. So I figure I do my tithing in areas where I feel that my money goes to a good cause. And you guys are the best cause out there.
Well, thank you.
You guys are just great. You just don't understand what you do for people. I know you get tired, and it probably is hard, and I hear it sometimes, but you really don't know what you've done for me, and I don't know about other people out there, but for me, it's just something I look forward to, and please don't stop. Please don't stop.
Oh, we're not.
I want to tell you, as much as, people say we help them, you guys help us so much. I would say it's just about the same because we learn from you.
Yeah.
We are blessed by having so many people that care about us, that care about other listeners, and it is a family here. And it feels
you know
that way.
what, Donna? I mean, think about the subject matter that we're talking about tonight. You can tune in and you could hear somebody ranting and raving about the we're going to fight the rights of the Second Amendment. I mean, but really, when you combine the intellectual and the spiritual together, and then you think, okay, well, in the real world scenario, what are your plans, and you try to formulate some sort of plan. It becomes more real, and then you've got to really it's a mental exercise, and it's a spiritual exercise as well. So, yeah, and we're involved, deeply involved in that exercise with you. So, you help us, yes.
Well, you said to play your zone. That comes to mind. That helped me a lot, by the way. I want you to know, because I kept thinking, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm sure other people must have that same feeling, but I kept thinking, well, I'm not really getting any kind of urgency except, well, whatever it is. But the point is that I kept thinking, well, in the French, when the Germans were invading France and stuff, if it wasn't for the underground people, the people that, like me, I'm not physically capable of beating anybody up, and I've never been that way.
You never know that.
I don't know what my zone is. I try to wake people up. Most of the time, what I get in my family is, I just want to be happy. I don't want to hear about it. I have to go watch Dancing with the Stars or With the Idiots or whatever. So that's frustrating, to try and wake people up, and they don't want to be woken up. And it's sad, because I know that when it happens, they're going to be the first going, why didn't you tell me? But it's okay. God works in mysterious ways, so I pray a lot. And I'm going to keep listening to you guys, and you guys are just great. And I'm going to keep working on my zone, I picked a zone, which is to try and stop this horrible abortion thing it's just getting worse. Called my aunt and said it's really horrifying what they're doing. I mean, the new laws, I was trying to get a copy of the new law, because they do these partial ones, I guess.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't even want to say it on the air, because it just really hurts to think about a baby being born, and if it's not dead, I suppose they kill it, is what she said.
Yeah.
They kill
I remember
it, and I thought,
Ron Paul, he talked about, I think in a political commercial when he was running, about the first time he saw an abortion, and he was shocked because that they put the baby down on the ground to die, and he couldn't believe what he was witnessing. This was like in the back a long time ago, and he gives his testimony about it, and he said, ever since then, he could not sit back and do nothing about it.
Yeah, because I had to repent. I used to be, an old pagan, and I think I probably did vote for the right to choose at one time, and so that blood was on my hands, and I had to repent of that. And it's amazing when you become a Christian and you wake up, scales are gone, and you start to see things in a totally different light. I mean, it's just a totally different light. Also, I think prohibition. They can come and take people's guns, but they did that with alcohol, and the only thing I personally think it's going to do in the beginning, people will turn in their guns. I don't own one, so I don't have anything to turn in. But, the black market isn't going to stop. Drugs have not stopped. They keep, they declared a war on drugs. Drugs got worse. They'll take people's guns, but, all I see is the people who want them, they're just going to create a huge black market, and a lot of money will be made on the black market, just like prohibition. So, you can confiscate guns, but I think there's, the people that want them are going to find them, because the people who register their guns, like, my dad and uncle and stuff, the criminals never register their guns. And since I don't own a gun and my house has been broken into, I'm just having bars put on my windows and bars on my doors, because I don't know what else to do. And so I'm going to do as much as I can on my end. And then I'm praying that if we all can just come together and pray, like Maggie. I still think of Maggie. And she just the lady that called in. I loved her. She was just great. I hope she calls in again with some more good advice. And please don't go away. Keep up the good fight.
Well,
and
thank you.
God bless you and praise you so much. Thank you very much.
God bless you.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you so much. It's not us. It's God that's it's behind it. It's all praise belongs to God. All we're trying to do is kind of like you is figure out where we stand and develop the strategy.
Well said.
While we still can, and knowing that the chaos is coming, and it's kind of like building a shelter when you're faced with a storm, and the storm's coming. So that's what we have to do.
We're going to try and take another call here before the end of the show. We're going to go to area code 541. You've been on hold a long time. Thanks for your patience. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hello.
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 You're up, 541. You're up. What's on your mind?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm just calling because I used to be an ex-soldier, and I sort of defend the United States against enemies both foreign and domestic. People that are trying to take our guns away are domestic enemies. Do we just say screw the Constitution? You guys can have my guns because I'm outnumbered?
No. No.
Well, no, you raise a good point. So obviously, any type of legislation, whether or executive order, you would not comply then with that surrendering of weapons.
After I get out of the Army or whatever branch of the armed services, the Constitution to me is null and void. I still don't carry that whole protect against both foreign and domestic. Absolutely not. I still have that mentality. I don't care if I'm a soldier or not. This is my country. Yeah, it's good to be, have a relationship with Christ, but at what point do we not have a right to defend ourselves? Is it when we're outnumbered and we say, oh, well, I want to be a sissy and not defend myself anymore? We need to stand up, not just for God, because that's the first thing, but we also need to stand up for our country too. And we need to make plans right now so we're not in that situation where, okay, well, I'm outnumbered, I need to protect my family, so I'm going to give up my guns. Well, why don't we plan right now so we're not in that situation?
And that's exactly what we're attempting to do.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating laying down by any means to somebody who wants to confiscate my guns because they want a tyrannical, government. What I'm talking about is laying down to the authority and the will of the Lord, knowing that through my devotion and obedience to Him, that I will not be forsaken. And Dr. Marquis said it best today. In any story in the Bible, when he brought judgment on people, did he ever bring judgment on the righteous and the unrighteous at the same time? Or has he ever brought judgment on the righteous? No, they've always been removed before that happens.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well,
I agree, and it's time to...
And I love your spirit. I can sense your spirit. I love that spirit because you took an oath, you took it seriously, and you're ready to say, you know what, my oath has not expired.
My oath has not expired. Yeah, and I'm not going to use the excuse, well, the Army's here, so I'm going to give up my guns. No, I'm going to make sure before that even happens, my family's not in that situation because I see it coming. I see it coming, and I'm not going to wait here and be like, oh, they're here, let's give up my guns. No, we're still protecting our country from enemies foreign and domestic, and unfortunately, all the enemies are not foreign; they are domestic. They're coming after everybody. So we're trying to demonize. We see the agenda, right? You not see it?
Right. Oh, absolutely. And you said it best because make the plans now so you're not caught unawares later. It's
like a thief in the night.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're attempting to coalesce here, or to have coalesce, make coalesce that type of mindset, because we can't be caught with our with our pants on. We just can't. We can't. We've got to be prepared and decide how to act. You know what, caller? You just finished out the program. We're at the end of the program. I want to say God bless you. Thank you so much for your call, and thank you, by the way, for your service to our country.
Yeah. All right,
God
guys.
bless
Take
you.
care.
God bless you, my friend.
Later.
Folks, what a thought-provoking program tonight was.
Yes, it was.
And I want to thank everyone for listening. God bless you folks in California, Canada, Montana, everywhere, all across the United States, all across North America, all across the world. Thank you very much. Tomorrow night, special guest Doc Marquis. Thanks, Joe, for scheduling that. And an insight into the agenda of the globalists and the Illuminati.
That's right. God bless each and every one of you. Have a safe and excellent night and day tomorrow, and we will see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and look forward to an excellent show.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.